The Rays and Blue Jays offenses exploded. We'll break it down and preview Week 11 up next on a Kokomo Friday.
Alcantara, Soroka, you look so good in Boca. Peralta, Manoa, bounce back for Aaron Nola. Giolito, Castillo, Yoshida, Mosusuno.
Happy Kokomo Friday and welcome in to Fantasy Baseball today on May 30th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Fancy seeing you here, Chris, on a Kokomo Friday. Look at that.
I know, it's weird. Today's a weird day. I'm on the podcast on a Thursday. There were only 5 games. Everything's weird today.
It was kind of a weird Thursday, but we did have some stuff happen. 2 offensive explosions by the Rays and Blue Jays. I've got some rankings questions. Chris doesn't know. That's right. Scotty doesn't know. Chris doesn't know today.
Very clever.
Yeah, I just, honestly, I spent all night like trying to think of something. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to do Scotty doesn't know, but with Chris doesn't know. And we're going to preview Week 11. Let's jump in.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Come on, we still have to get Scott here on a Friday.
Love it. Welcome, Scott. Welcome.
All right, Chris, who is your player of the night?
My player of the night is going to be Junior Caminero and those slug-in Rays who scored 13 runs against the Astros. And Junior Caminero went 3 for 6, hit a home run, his 11th of the season, drove in 6 runs. And all of a sudden, he is starting to turn things on a little bit. He's got 3 home runs in his past 7 days and their games, and that overlaps with Caminero working with a hitting coach that he's worked with back in the Dominican Republic. He flew him up to the States to work with him, and the biggest thing that I saw was they just wanted him to get his hands higher in his load. And you know, we've talked about Junior Caminero a bunch this season and how, you know, there seems to be an inherent inconsistency to his swing right now. You know, he tends to get on top of the ball or get too under it right now. Clearly, the physical tools are incredible. He has the highest bat speed in the majors. He hits the ball really, really hard when he hits it and when he squares it up. And so at some point, it's going to click. You know, the comps I've made with Junior Caminero have been Marcell Ozuna and Vladimir Guerrero. They're 2 other guys who always hit the ball hard, always had pretty good approaches at the plate, and just didn't hit the ball consistently in the right areas often enough. And frankly, Vladimir Guerrero kind of still has that problem. So it may not just go away for Caminero, but I do think when it all comes together, it's going to be very, very impressive. And maybe that's what we're seeing here. He was in a pretty big slump before this stretch. So I don't know if I want to necessarily say that's what's happening, but I hope it is.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I like those comps that you bring up too, because again, those are guys that kind of hit to all fields. Even if you watch tonight, I mean, the home run he hit was to the opposite field.
Mm-hmm.
He really is someone who I think at his core just wants to hit the ball where it's pitched. I mean, obviously, I think most hitters want to do that, but he's someone that actually does it. I mean, he's not going out of his way to really pull the ball all that much, but yeah, he could really hit the ball with power to all fields, and we saw that tonight. Although I am looking at his pulled air percentage, 20%. That's actually pretty good there.
It's not bad, yeah.
For Junior Caminero. You mentioned last 7 days he's got 3 home runs. He's also batting .414 with 12 RBI and a 1330 OPS during that time. Scott mentioned the same thing that you brought up, the fact that he is working with a hitting coach from the Dominican Republic, and so far it is paying off in a big way. Let's stick with the Rays here and talk about Chandler Simpson, who is just wreaking havoc on the base paths, just like we thought. 1 for 4 with a walk and 3 more steals in this one. He's hitting .285 with 19 steals in 35 games. He is now 2 steals off the league lead, and Luis Robert has played 16 more games than him. Bobby Witt has played 22 more games than Chandler Simpson. And, you know, Chris, obviously category leagues, I think Chandler Simpson is rostered in most, if not all of those. Somebody on Twitter asked if Chandler Simpson deserves more consideration in head-to-head points leagues. And my answer is maybe. Entering Thursday, he averaged 2.7 fantasy points per game. That's the same number as Tyler Soderstrom and Randy Arozarena, and it's more than Jose Altuve and Luis Robert on the season. At 57% rostered, look, I'm not saying he has to be rostered in every points league, but he's hot right now, and yeah, I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, that does make me wonder. I'm going to try to look it up while I'm talking. So if you have anything else to say, feel free.
I don't have to.
But I do want to look up where Chandler Simpson ranks among outfielders since his promotion, which I think was on the 19th.
That I can pull up for you.
I'm almost there. I don't want to make it seem to the audience like I don't know how to do that. I do.
Yes, it's since April 19th there for Chandler Simpson. And we've seen other players do this before, right? Like Xavier Edwards just last year is kind of the name we brought up a few other times. Obviously, Simpson's speed is even, a couple of levels past him. But Edwards was great in points leagues last year. A lot of it was just making contact and hitting for batting average and lots of plate appearances, leading off and stealing bases. And yeah, maybe Simpson can pull off a similar trick.
Yeah, so he is, it looks like around 30th to 35th at outfield in points. Since then, that's before today. So he should get out 5 or 6 more points. I don't know exactly what he had. Which is he's right around Jesus Sanchez, not a name that we typically think needs to be rostered more in points leagues. He's right behind Wilyer Abreu, who is not really a great points league player. Trevor Larnach actually is ahead of him. Javier Baez, that's surprising. Byron Buxton only in a much smaller sample size. So I think that all suggests that Chandler Simpson is pretty fringy in a head-to-head points league. It's not like he's not useful, but in the one league I'm looking at, which is our head-to-head auction salary cap league, he's available on waivers. Trevor Larnach's available on waivers. Javier Baez, who's outfield eligible. Gavin Sheets, Lourdes Gurriel, Ryan O'Hearn, Lars Nootbaar. Those guys are all available in that league and are outscoring Chandler Simpson since his promotion. Miguel Vargas, Jordan Beck as well. Miguel Vargas actually like a top 12 outfielder since April 19th. That's surprising in points. So I think he's a can add, but certainly not a must add in a head-to-head points league.
All right. Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's slide over to the Blue Jays. Their offense came alive here, and they have put up a lot of duds recently, so this was a welcome sight. 12 zip on 18 hits, including 4 home runs. Bo Bichette, 2 for 4 with his 6th home run, and he has hit all 6 of his home runs in May so far. That's to go along with an 819 OPS. Look, you're going to notice a theme, Chris. I don't know. I guess I'll bring this up now, and maybe you can kind of look into it, or maybe you have a thought on it already, but Blue Jays hitters for some reason just really underperform their expected stats, and it's happening for a lot of these names as well. So Bo Bichette, big game. Vlad Jr. 1 for 4 with his 8th home run. He has been underwhelming so far, also underperforming his expected stats quite a bit. George Springer actually having a renaissance season here. Hit his 6th home run. He's got a 367 on base with 7 steals as well. 812 OPS, and quality of contact just way up this season for George Springer. Alejandro Kirk, 3 for 3 with a walk, and he's just kind of doing Kirk things, hitting 297, but not really.
That's kind of it, yeah.
Not really much else to go along with it, but a 453 X slug, which that would be pretty good if we can get that number out of Kirk. Is there any reason? I know since they had those renovations a couple of years ago, it feels like their hitters are more prone to underperforming expected stats.
Yeah, that's what I want to look up. Let's see if I can do this one. So there have been, since the start of the 2021 season, there have been 29 Blue Jays hitters who have had at least 400 plate appearances in a season. So that's 21, 22, 23, and 24. And 16 of them have underperformed their expected WOBA. So that's not nothing.
That's what, 2/3, right?
Yeah, right around. I mean, like Teoscar Hernandez in 2021 underperformed by 1 point. Bo Bichette in 21 also 1 point. I don't remember exactly when they made those renovations though, so maybe it's a more recent trend. On the whole, in this time period, 2021 through 25, Blue Jays hitters are right on their expected WOBA. 23, 24, and 25, they're underperforming by about 5 points, which is not nothing when you're talking about, 55,000 pitches faced or whatever it is. But I don't know if there's a ton there.
Mm-hmm. Do you see anything actionable with any of these guys? I mean, Bo Bichette, we were all excited for, and it feels like it's kind of happening now. He's coming around a little bit. If you could still buy, I think we all would. I mean, Vlad Jr., someone might be upset somewhere if they took him at the 1-2 turn, and he's got a 815 OPS, but he got off to a slow start last year. I'm not saying he's definitely going to do what he did last season, but he's been a little bit streakier in his career so far. Springer, Kirk is like a second catcher.
He is what he is. It's an empty batting average, but it's a good batting average, which matters for catcher. I think Springer is by far the most interesting just because it's such an out of nowhere. I mean, it's sort of a return to form, but we haven't really seen him at this level since 2020, really. At least in terms of the expected stats. It would be one thing if George Springer was hitting well, but the expected stats didn't back it up. Then it would be really easy to just say, oh, yeah, sell high on George Springer. It's 35 years old. This isn't sustainable, but the underlying numbers actually back it up. He has the highest average exit velocity of his career by like 2 miles per hour. His hard hit rate, also a career high, 35 again. And it does seem that there has been some sort of trade-off, right? His strikeout rate is way up, although his walk rate's up as well. He's just been more patient, which tends to lead to more strikeouts as well. I'm operating under the assumption that this won't prove sustainable for George Springer. But the quality of contact has remained really good throughout, even when he's gone through a little bit of a slump with the actual results. Like his last 50 plate appearances before today, he had a 351 expected WOBA. His last 100, 392 expected WOBA. Those are really good marks. So I'm assuming that at some point he'll just peter out. And so I do think he's a sell high candidate, but I don't think it's like get out while you can. I will say I do think Bo Bichette is a buy low.
Yeah.
We saw in April he hit 290 something, I think in April, but it was very little power. Now in May, the power's been there, 6 homers. That's a very good mark for Bo Bichette, but the batting average is way down. I think he'll put it all together. The underlying numbers are very good. 310 expected batting average, 495 expected slug. I do think we're going to see a very good final 4 months from Bo Bichette.
I did just want to bring up on Springer, the Bat X projections from Derek Carty. They factor in StatCast data as well. So rest of season projections, 252, 14 home runs, 10 steals. If Springer could pull that off,
we're
looking at a 2017 bat with like a 250 batting average. I mean, doesn't blow you away, but that's
a starting caliber player in a 5 outfielder league for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. So I kind of dig it. I think there's a good chance Springer won't be, this good, but I think he could still be serviceable the rest of the way. I wanted to give a shout out to Ernie Clement too. Had a big game, but I don't think there's anything actionable here, but 3 for 5 with his second home run and 5 RBI in that game as well. Before we hit our first break, just a reminder to sign up for the FBT newsletter if you haven't already. You're watching on YouTube, scan the QR code that will bring you right to the website where you can sign up for free. You'll get a newsletter delivered right to your inbox every weekday for the rest of the baseball season. And big thanks to those watching us live. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Let's take that break and we'll hit the news and notes right after this. Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball Today. News and notes. The Angels plan to activate Mike Trout on Friday. He's been out since May 1st with a bone bruise in his knee. He was only batting 179, but that came with 9 home runs and 2 steals in 29 games. The knee has given him a bunch of issues over the past 2 seasons in particular. It's been a bunch of other injuries before that. So, look, I'm hoping that Mike Trout can stay on the field. Obviously, I still think baseball is much better when Mike Trout plays, but obviously that has been really hard for him.
I think he will be an impact bat when he's healthy. I thought he was one of the more obvious buy low candidates before the injury. In terms of production alone, I think expectations should remain very high for Mike Trout.
Bryce Harper missed both games of the doubleheader Thursday after that hit by pitch on his elbow earlier in the week. Logan Gilbert made his first rehab start at AAA on Thursday, allowing 1 run over 1 2/3 innings. He got up to 45 pitches, and it looks like the velocity was okay for him in that one. AJ Smith-Shawver left his start early after getting hit by a comebacker. Then after the game, he said he felt a pop in his elbow, which you never want that. He was placed on the IL with a right elbow strain. And that just kind of escalated quickly out of nowhere. It's just all these different things happen, and boom, Smith-Shawver on the IL. Yordan Alvarez hit on the field in Houston on Thursday. He had Joe Espada and Dana Brown watching him on the field. So we'll see how the hand responds in the coming days. I think this has taken longer than everybody expected it to. So it's been pretty frustrating season for Yordan Alvarez. Jazz Chisholm began his rehab assignment at AA on Thursday. It also sounds like he's going to play third base exclusively moving forward because they lost Oswaldo Cabrera for the year. And, they have some fill-ins at second. They could play LeMahieu there and Vivas and Peraza. So
to re-sign Gleyber Torres.
Oh, gosh, yes. Man, Gleyber, still having a great season, man. Shout out to him. But yeah, sounds like Jazz is going back to third base. Shota Imanaga threw a 25-pitch bullpen on Wednesday and went through running/fielding drills. He is on the IL with that hamstring injury. Christian Walker was out of the lineup after that hit by pitch on his right hand on Wednesday. Jordan Lawler was optioned back to AAA, and Chris, I just don't get why teams do this to their prospects. And the Orioles did the same thing with Kobe Mayo. Now, I'm sure there's people listening and saying, Jordan Lawler stinks. They needed to send him down, blah, blah, blah. He was 0 for 19 with 9 strikeouts. He was very bad. There's no doubt about that.
You can't start 6 times in 15 games and expect someone to be good.
How can you possibly get going?
Yeah.
And
it's an impossible situation that they put him in.
And it's the same thing with Kobe Mayo, right? Like you look at the numbers. Oh gosh, he's been terrible every time he's got a chance in the majors.
He hasn't really gotten a chance.
So I don't know if it's just because the fans were clamoring or there was like pressure within the organization to promote Jordan Lawler, but it's just why call him up if you're not going to play him? So.
This is totally speculation, and honestly, it's probably not the case, but it does just feel like it was like, okay, we'll call him up. But there was they knew there was nowhere to play him. I just don't understand what the plan was, if there was a plan. And I'm hoping that they take this and they say, well, okay, we didn't have anywhere to play him in the infield. Let's send him down to AAA and get him some work in the outfield, because this is going to continue to be the problem. Like, I guess at the end of this year, if you're thinking long-term, at the end of this year, Suarez is a free agent and maybe Lawler is just the third baseman moving forward. Maybe that's the answer and that's all they care about. But it just doesn't feel like the right decision to just get nothing out of him the rest of the way, given that it doesn't seem like there's much left for him to learn in the minors. And he is still very young, Jordan Lawler, so it's not like, Kobe Mayo's, I think, a couple of years older. I think the way the Orioles have handled Kobe Mayo over the past 2 seasons has really hurt his development, but also hurt his trade value in a way that I don't think is the case for Jordan Lawler. But they've got to find a place to play him. And maybe it's just they're not worried about this year. He's still young enough that they're thinking 2026 and beyond. He's their third baseman, and maybe that'll work out. But it would seem like a waste, not just from a fantasy perspective, because we want to see a player who's this young and talented get an opportunity, but just from their perspective. This is a team that is built to compete right now. And I think he's one of their 9 best players right now. So I hope they find a way to get him out there.
The Marlins' plan is for Xavier Edwards to play second base upon his return, with Otto Lopez remaining at shortstop. I missed this one late on Wednesday night, but apparently Austin Hayes left after fouling a ball off his foot, and let's hope he's all right, because whenever he's been on the field this season, he's looked pretty damn good, but he, has dealt with some injuries here. And the Dodgers acquired Alexis Diaz from the Reds in exchange for minor league pitcher Mike Villani. And Diaz was a disaster this year. We know he does have extensive closing experience. The Dodgers bullpen actually could use some help. I don't think they're just going to throw him right into high leverage situations, and maybe not even the majors. I mean, he might have to work out in the minors a little bit before they call him up, but there's a non-zero chance he earns some saves at some point this season, Chris.
Non-zero, but I think it's pretty unlikely, just because I'm not sure he's all that good.
Fair. All right, want to move on to some other things before we get to Chris Doesn't Know. Want to talk about Sean Murphy, who this situation kind of sucks for him, and I say that as someone who has Sean Murphy on a lot of 2-catcher leagues. So, but I get why the Braves have done what they did. Like Drake Baldwin, red hot. You got to get it in the lineup. I totally get that.
Teams do.
But when you look at Sean Murphy, what he's done, man, like a 333 on base with 9 homers and an 833 OPS in 34 games. That's pretty damn good production from a catcher, and he's down to 38% rostered. I get why the playing time has fallen off, but for Sean Murphy, he's been a little bit streaky here. I get that, but he's on the whole, he's looked pretty good offensively.
Yeah, and here's the thing that you have to keep in mind. As impressive as Drake Baldwin has been, and he's been terrific, he has a 397 WOBA and a 154 WRC plus. Those are elite numbers for any position, let alone a catcher. And if he's going to hit like that, of course they have to play him. He's probably not this good. Like last year in the minors between AA and AAA, as a 23-year-old, young but not so precocious that you think that he wasn't 20. He had a 125 WRC plus between AA and AAA, a 362 WOBA. Now, that's awesome for a catcher, and it's pretty good for all players, but it's not necessarily, okay, this guy might be the best catcher in baseball right now kind of production. And that is what Baldwin looks like right now. I don't think he's actually this good. I think there will be some regression, and there will be an opportunity for Sean Murphy to claw back some of that playing time. And it could just be a hot hand situation where, Baldwin's hot, he gets 60% of the plate appearances. But if Murphy gets hot and Baldwin slows down, it could very easily go back to Murphy for 60-40.
It's honestly a kind of an annoying situation for everyone involved, I guess, for fantasy, right? It's if either one of those catchers were just getting 75% of the playing time for
easy top 10 guy,
then yeah, you would love both of those guys for fantasy. But, I do think there is going to be some, up and down, some playing time differences between those guys rest of season. So it's a good problem for the Braves to have, but it is kind of a messy one for fantasy. Let's do some rankings questions here on some specific starting pitchers. And Mackenzie Gore turned in a strong start at the Mariners, 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts to 0 walks. The control has been so much improved for Mackenzie Gore. He had 18 whiffs on 95 pitches, 12 of those on the fastball. And this breakout just looks awesome, Chris. I mean, just down the line, it's 3 earned runs or fewer in 10 of 12 starts, 6+ innings in 9 of 12 starts, 7+ strikeouts in 10 of 12 starts, 2 walks or less in 8 of 12 starts. Oh yeah. And Mackenzie Gore leads baseball with 101 strikeouts. I have him ranked as my SP 30. Might not be high enough.
Yeah, I moved him up to 27 before this start. And the comp I keep making in my head is Jesus Luzardo, who, like Gore, tweaked his slider. In Luzardo's case, he added the sweeper. In Gore's case, his slider's more like if I'm remembering correctly, it's more like a cutter type now. It's more like a gyro slider. He throws it hard. And that has really paid dividends for him. He actually barely threw it today, but it has helped fuel a big improvement against left-handed pitching, which is something that we've talked a lot about over the years with Mackenzie Gore, where he has had really bad reverse splits where he's actually been okay against righties and has gotten destroyed against lefties. And that has not been the case. He has a 42% strikeout rate against left-handed batters this season. That is huge. And I said he barely threw it today. He only threw 3 of them. The Mariners just didn't have any lefties. 11 of his 95 pitches came against lefties today. Teams are smartly avoiding Mackenzie Gore with their lefties now, and he's still getting the job done against righties as he always has. So everything looks really good. I've made the Luzardo comp because huge strikeout rates, I think pretty good run production. The whip is going to leave you wanting a little bit. Gore, the control's actually been fine. He has the lowest walk rate of his career. He just tends to be a little more hittable than you would think. And so, 119 whip, that's not bad. It's not elite. And I think that's probably what you're going to get from Gore, even if he really is a true low 3s ERA guy. And I think he can be. I think the whip's going to be lagging a little bit behind, and that's fine. Where you drafted him, I have him at 27. I think he's in that top 24 discussion now. I have Spencer Strider ahead of him. I have George Kirby ahead of him.
Same.
It would not take much to drop those guys behind him. So I think he's right on the cusp of being a top 24 guy, Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah, I have Luzardo and Carlos Rodon at 20 and 21, and there's a clear argument for Mackenzie Gore to be right in the same range as those guys. My only thing was, okay, I want to see this a little bit longer just because Gore has been so inconsistent so far in his career. And those other guys, while for Rodon, it's been a while. But Luzardo and Rodon, they've done it before. They've done it at an elite level over a full season. So give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt.
Remember, at the end of May of last year, he had a 291 ERA. It was 72 strikeouts in 68 innings. So it wasn't quite as dominant as this, but he was very good the first couple of months of last season. Then he went through a really bad stretch for the next couple of months before rediscovering it in the second half. So now it's okay. He can do it. Now, can he do it for more than a couple months at a time? I have faith in him, but it's a lingering question.
Now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the podcast, Shane Baz, who finishes 1 out short of a quality start at the Astros, 5 2/3 innings, 3 runs allowed, 3 strikeouts to 0 walks, 2 more homers allowed, just 4 whiffs in this one, 10 hard hits allowed, 91 mile per hour average exit velocity. And the last 8 starts, it is a 6.53 ERA, a 1.62 whip, 28 strikeouts to 18 walks. Over 41 1/3 innings, 10 homers allowed during that time. I'm still just not seeing enough here, Chris. I moved him all the way down to SP 60 here on Thursday.
Did I move him that far down? No, I didn't move him that far down. I probably do need to.
I'm not saying I'm right. By any
No,
means,
I
it's
think
been so bad for it. Like the first 3 starts were awesome, and then it's like everything kind of crumbled after that. So.
No, I think Shane Baz, Sandy Alcantara, Max Meyer. There are probably some other pitchers, but those are the 3 that come to mind immediately. I think you just got to view those 3 guys as stashes. And in a daily league, you might just not have the room to stash them. I get that those bench spots can be super valuable in a daily league. And if you don't have room for them, you don't have room for them. But if you're in, Yuri Perez is 60% rostered. I know you can put him in an IL spot, so that makes it a little easier, but I think you just view these guys, Jacob Mizorowski, Bubba Chandler, like I'm just hoping I get something out of them at some point, but I'm not expecting it from Shane Baz, Sandy Alcantara, and Max Meyer at this point. They're all super talented. They're all clearly have the upside to be difference makers, but man, you look at Baz, like I'm looking at the pitch chart and he does a good job mostly of keeping the fastballs in the upper third of the zone. That's probably where you want them. I think elevating them even more wouldn't be a bad thing. But man, when you look at like the curveball. It's a ton of curveballs just in the middle of the zone. Most of the changeups, I don't think he threw a single changeup that was below like the mid-thigh area. His sliders were all belt higher above. He just does not have command of his pitches. And I can envision a world where Shane Baz elevates the four-seamer a little better, gets it above the strike zone to miss some more bats, keeps that knuckle curve down, like truly down at the bottom third of the zone and below, and can really take off. I can see a world like the stuff is there. I could see like a right-handed Blake Snell kind of thing from him, but he doesn't have it right now. And he's not showing any signs of getting it back. Only 4 whiffs in this start. That's really bad. He doesn't generate chases. That's the biggest thing. He either needs to figure out how to miss bats in the strike zone, in which case you can pound the strike zone all you want, or he needs to figure out how to generate chases and then throw out of the strike zone. But right now, he throws in the strike zone too much. He doesn't generate whiffs in the strike zone, and he doesn't generate chases when he's out of the strike zone. He's talented, and I don't want to give up on him because I clearly see the talent, but you absolutely cannot start Shane Baz right now.
No, you should not. Let's talk about Christopher Sanchez, who had a solid start against the Braves. 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts here. Did have 13 whiffs on 88 pitches. Lots of hard contact, 11 hard hits allowed in this one. And look, he consistently gives up decent amount of hard contact, decent amount of hits. The walks are up this season as well. And as a result, the whip is all the way up to 131. So while I like the velocity being up, the strikeout growth here has been awesome for Christopher Sanchez. Like Mackenzie Gore, and maybe even a little bit worse, Chris, I do expect, unless he can get those walks down, the whip to be more hurtful than helpful from Christopher Sanchez.
Yeah, he his walk rate is up to like 3.5 per 9 in the month of May since he came back from that forearm injury. It looked like he was making the leap to being like a top 15 or top 20 starting pitcher before that injury, and he hasn't been bad since then, but he's come back to earth a little bit. So that's one where it's like, would I rather have Christopher Sanchez or Mackenzie Gore? I'll still give Sanchez the edge because he was better last season. So there's a little bit more of a track record here, but I feel I'm starting both. I think both are pretty much must start players, but I feel better about what Mackenzie Gore is going to give me in the next start, at least.
Yeah, I think it's razor thin. I mean, I have Sanchez at SP 28 and Gore at 30. So and then after, the start that Gore had today, I mean, both had, good starts, but Gore was even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, with every passing start that Gore does this, obviously confidence grows and grows. And so he has the ability to keep climbing up the rankings here, but just need to see it for longer. And Christopher Sanchez, if he could be a little bit more efficient, it's tough because like you want him to throw strikes. And then if he throws too many strikes, then, he gets hit hard in the zone. Yeah. So, but he is getting whiffs. That is the good thing there for Christopher Sanchez. Let's take our final break. And when we return, we'll do a little Chris Doesn't Know. We'll preview week 11. We'll do all of that right after this. Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. It is time for Chris Doesn't Know.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
All right, Chris. So I'm going to give you a random stat. You guess a player. If you get it wrong, we play the drop. We talk about that player. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Let's do it.
To be fair, I mean, we want you to get it wrong so that we can play the drop. But hey, if you know who it is, go for it.
I have a lot of faith that you're going to get to play this drop.
Yeah, I really don't give you much to work with either. So let's start with the first player, a pitcher. His 27.3% strikeout rate ranks 22nd among pitchers with 40 innings this season. And his 3.61 xERA is better than Corbin Burns, Framber Valdez, and Spencer Schwellenbach.
Let's pull up the old
It's wide open, Chris.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of places we can go with this. I'm going to go with...
I will say confidently he is ranked outside of your top 50 starting pitchers.
Okay. Interesting. Because I was going to say Chris Bassett, but I don't think he's not ranked outside of my top 50. Yeah, I don't got this one.
Just throw a name out there.
Chris Bassett was my guess.
All right.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was your official guess or not.
One of Matt Damon's best performances, by the way.
Yes, it really was. The name is Andrew Abbott here, Chris, who I noticed.
Yep.
I have SP53 and you have much lower. And I know that Andrew
I'm probably being unfair to him.
Has kind of been the bane of your existence. But to his credit, he's getting more strikeouts this season. He's got a 177 ERA, a 116 whip. I don't think anybody thinks he's that good, but it comes with a FIP and xERA that are in the mid threes. So if he can maintain that with, a solid whip and over a strikeout per inning, I think that gets him around the top 50 SP range. So Andrew Abbott.
I think that's all pretty reasonable. Look, the thing that's been so hard to figure out about Andrew Abbott is, okay, in 2023, he gets a lot of strikeouts, but 2023, he pitched pretty close to his peripherals. That wasn't the weird season. It was last year where all of a sudden he's not getting strikeouts. He doesn't have good control, and he gives up a ton of fly balls. I know a lot of them are weak fly balls. He gets a lot of pop-ups. Guys have a trouble barreling him up. But that was last year was really where I struggled with Andrew Abbott. Now, he's getting the strikeouts a little more often. It's weird because his velocity's down. He's getting more strikeouts. He's throwing his changeup a little more, but the arsenal looks mostly the same. And so he's just a weird pitcher. I think that's the biggest thing about Andrew Abbott. He's just weird. He defies convention. But looking at the rankings, this is an oversight. He should not be 80th. He should probably be in the top 60. Like, I don't think I feel better about Taj Bradley than Andrew Abbott at this point. So that's one I'm gonna move up a little bit.
All right. Well, if you're ready, after moving him up,
let's do it.
Player number 2. In 9 games since coming off the IL, this could be anyone. This is a hitter, by the way. In 9 games since coming off the IL, I'm hitting 129 with 0 homers, 0 steals, a 343 OPS. And I will mention he has dual position eligibility. We both liked him coming into the season.
It's not who I thought it was. I had one name that immediately sprung to mind, but does not appear to be Royce Lewis. Is that correct?
It is not.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty.
I wasn't going to say that was my official prediction, but I guess I got roped into that one.
So last time you threw Chris Bassett out there, I didn't know if it was your prediction, and this time you did the same, and so I went with it.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
So it's Tommy Edman, who has quietly been bad since returning. It's a very small sample size, I get that, but during that time, he's not hitting the ball hard at all. 81.5 average exit velocity, 0 barrels. He was on the IL with a right ankle injury. The expected stats are still amazing. But basically, all of that came before he got hurt. And I just hope that this ankle injury doesn't kind of derail any kind of bounce back or, big re-breakout season we were getting here from Tommy Edman.
Yeah, the last 50 plate appearances, which covers all of the time he's spent since coming off the IL and a little bit before. Expected WOBA down to 277. Now, that could just be a normal slump. If you do the last 100 plate appearances, it's 334, which that would be fine for a guy who can run the bases the way Tommy Edman can. Hasn't this year, but can be a good base stealer. And I expect he will be once he, if he levels off and, isn't hitting homers every other game like he was early in the season. I do think there should be more stolen bases there from him. So I think we'll get more from him than that. But Yeah, he wasn't as good as his early season production. Even if the underlying stats were there, I think this was a case of a hitter just being hot. And Edman is probably going to be more or less what he has been throughout his career, which is a pretty good hitter who needs to steal a lot of bases to have value. I think he's better than the Bryson Stott type players, but it's probably not far off from Bryson Stott. So I noticed that when I was updating my rankings. I wasn't quite sure what to do with Swanson because he is not Edman. Sorry. I was looking at my rankings. Where is Edman at? Is he only outfield eligible right now? I thought he was multi-eligible.
Second base, I believe, as well.
So I think he is my number 5 second baseman, my number 4 second baseman, but that is kind of more an indictment of the second base position.
Yeah.
These days than anything else, because he's not a top 100 player for me. I do think there are a decent number of second basemen in like the 100 to 250 range of the rankings, and Edman belongs in that group.
All right, next up, we have another pitcher. I allowed 9 earned runs back on April 3rd. In 9 starts since, I have a 2.45 ERA and a .84 WHIP.
This is Chris Paddock, right?
This is not.
That was a good guess.
That was a pretty good guess, though. It's Merrill Kelly, who during that stretch of 9 starts, I mentioned 2.45 ERA, .84 WHIP, a strikeout per inning, 1.5 walks per 9 during that time, 49% ground ball rate. Overall, it's a 3.52 ERA. The xERA is a little bit higher. He does give up some hard contact here. I can see a sell high argument for Merrill Kelly, just this run that he's on right now. I don't think he's this good, but I also don't think there's much demand for Merrill Kelly. So,
yeah, I think that's the problem is everybody knows what we're going to say about Merrill Kelly, which is that he's a 3.80 to 4-ish ERA pitcher, and some stretches will be a 3 ERA and some stretches will be a 5 ERA. But he's probably going to settle in around there. 3.92 xERA. That's more or less what I expect from Merrill Kelly, and that's fine. It's just, it's usually not much more than fine. And while he has been for those 9 starts, I don't expect that to sustain. One thing I will say is, even when the ERA is a little inflated, Merrill Kelly's usually a very good source of WHIP.
Yeah.
Last 3 seasons, 117, 119, 114. We don't talk as much about that. We tend to focus more on ERA and strikeouts when we're evaluating pitchers, but Kelly has been a very useful source of ERA. And look, it's possible I'm underselling him, right? Because in his full seasons, it's basically 2 seasons with a 4.40 ERA and then 2 with like a 3.30 ERA. I think you add it all up and the career ERA is 3.80 and the career WHIP's 120. And that's probably what I expect from him moving forward. But maybe he can be a 3.50 ERA guy. You know, I don't think that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. It's just, I don't think he's like a true talent 3.50 ERA guy.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. Just based on the way his career has played out, I think on the high end of his range is you can get that 3.30 to 3.50 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how he's pitching right now. But, you know, if things kind of spiral, then, you know, we're looking at probably an ERA in the mid 4s or something like that for Merrill Kelly. All right, next up, we have another pitcher, Chris, and I made my season debut on April 30th. My first 3 starts were good, and my last 2 have been bad over that stretch. 9 innings, 8 earned runs, 8 walks to 7 strikeouts.
So I just have to ask, how often does Scott get these?
I think we've maybe had 10 names, and he has gotten maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, so you said it's 5 starts total?
5 starts total, yep.
Gosh, who came back at the end of April?
Mhm.
Or was it a promotion at the end of April?
No, it was back from injury.
Okay, back from injury. It's probably obvious, and I got nothing.
It's really it's not that obvious.
Okay.
It's a pretty random player that we haven't talked about much lately.
Zach Eflin.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
So it is Tony Gonsolin, who overall has a 4.68 ERA with a 1.44 WHIP, and still 10K per nine. But the walks have been a problem lately, and we were pretty excited about him when he got, when he returned. Chris, he had those 3 good starts in a row, but obviously things lately haven't been so good. He's still 72% rostered. Should he be?
I think 70% rostered's fine, but we are like the next start probably needs to be good, or it's going to be pretty easy to drop him. But he was impressive enough early on, and the velocity's been up, and I think the stuff has mostly looked okay, that I am willing to give him another look or two. But yeah, I do think Tony Gonsolin does have to show us something here, because like if he makes another bad start, well, that would be 3 bad starts and 3 good starts. And I don't think he has the track record that you need to be super patient with that. So I do think we're reaching a decision point with Tony Gonsolin.
And guess what? He's got to face the Yankees on Friday. So
there you go.
Not the
best. A good test.
Matchup. Not the best matchup there for Tony.
But if he's good, that makes it very easy to hang on to Tony Gonsolin if he does well against the Yankees. So, we'll learn something, hopefully. Or maybe he's just mediocre and we don't learn anything.
All right, last one here. We have another hitter and got off to a great start. But last 13 games, hitting 159, 0 homers, 0 steals, and a 506 OPS.
Okay, so it's a player we expect to steal bases. I assume.
No,
I assume that was
not necessarily.
Otherwise, you're just being misleading.
Well, I put 0 home runs in there too.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm like, okay, we expect some power and some speed.
All right, forget the 0 steals.
All
0
right, he
homers.
got off to a good start.
Yes.
But the last 13 games have been a struggle for Wilyer Abreu.
That's not a bad guess, though.
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know.
The answer is Trent Grisham.
Okay. I was also Jung-Hoo Lee was going to be my other.
He has slowed down a little bit here in May as well. But we know Grisham got off to the great start. Actually, during this 13-game stretch, he's still hitting the ball really hard, 90.2 average exit velocity with a 17% barrel rate. Strikeout rate is climbing a little bit, but still 17% walk rate during that time. So still playing a lot. The Yankees like his glove in center field, 66% rostered. I'm trying to figure out if this is the, start of him just completely falling off, but some of the underlying numbers still look good. What do you think?
So the last 50 plate appearances, the ex-WOBA is 305, which that is more like what we expect from Trent Grisham. In fact, last season, his ex-WOBA, 305. This is the thing that's tough about these newfangled stats that have been around for 11 years now is expected stats, velocity, whiff rate, all these like granular things that we can look at and say, he's hitting fastballs well, but his whiff rate is 28% on breaking, whatever we do with them. They do a better job of actual production of measuring talent. And we know this, and that's why we use them, because we are trying to ultimately figure out who has talent and who doesn't. The problem is talent is not static. Guys get hot, guys get cold, guys get locked in, whatever you want to call it. Guys can play above their talent level in a way that is not a fluke, but is not sustainable as well. And so, we were talking about George Springer earlier. The underlying stats all look great. He's crushing the ball. He's hitting it harder than he ever has. I don't know if it's sustainable. It's real. Like, he is doing it right now, but that doesn't mean he will continue to do it. And when you have players with long track records like Grisham and Springer, who are suddenly playing well out over their head in terms of talent, I do think you should still be skeptical of it. Because sometimes guys just get hot for a couple of months. I'm guessing that's just what happened with Trent Grisham. I'm also guessing that's mostly what's happening with George Springer. And so I'm not dropping Grisham in every league, but it wouldn't be hard for him to lose a lot of playing time really quickly.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, when we're looking at like the impact on Ben Rice and finding a way to get his bat in the lineup, I can't imagine the Yankees are going to ask Giancarlo Stanton to even carry an outfield glove. Can Ben Rice play left field?
Not to my knowledge.
I mean, I'm sure he can. Can he play it well enough to be a major league player? I don't know. But that might be a conversation that they have to have if Trent Grisham continues to slump, because they certainly didn't go into the season expecting Trent Grisham to be a big part of their outfield. They thought he was a clear fourth outfielder, and he's forced them to play guys out of position to get his bat in the lineup. But if he goes back to being a below average hitter, he's not such a great defender that you have to keep him around. So, when we talk about the playing time concerns for Ben Rice, yeah, Trent Grisham going into a deep slump is one way that Ben Rice could find more playing time.
All right, Chris. Well, your first time playing Chris Doesn't Know, and
lived up to the name.
Yeah, there you go. 5 names that we haven't really talked much about lately, and so I did want to find a way to work those in as well. Let's get into our Week 11 preview. Now it's time for the weekly preview, brought to you by Travis Matthew, apparel designed for confidence and comfort, no matter where the day takes you. Let's start with the schedule, and we have 22 teams with 6 games next week, and we have 8 teams with 7 games, including the Tigers, White Sox, Giants, Padres, Athletics, Mets, Twins, and Dodgers. What about the Rockies next week? They have 6 games, 3 on the road at Miami, and 3 in Coors Field against the Mets. More on that in just a little bit. Chris, start or sit these 2-star pitchers. You can give me a straight up yes, start in all leagues, a no, bench in all leagues, or if you want to do what Scott does, points league only, you can kind of hedge a little bit there. First up, George Kirby has been bad for his first 2 outings. And of course, he has 2 starts against the Orioles and at the Angels.
I'll start him.
All right. Next up, we have Cade Horton, who is at the Nationals and at the Tigers.
So those are both middling, not really great matchups at this point. The Tigers might actually just be like a bad matchup. They might be like a top 10 offense right now. So I would say this one's only points. I don't think Cade Horton has proven enough to be started in all roto leagues.
These next 2 are both from the Mets. We have and tough matchups. Tyler McGill at the Dodgers and at Colorado. Colorado, not a tough matchup, but in Coors Field could be a little bit dicey there. And then Griffin Canning has the same matchups. He starts on Tuesday in a 7-game week, so it's not a guarantee that he'll make 2 starts, but he lines up for that right now. What do you think about McGill and Griffin Canning?
I mean, this is the 1 week you might actually get 6 innings out of Tyler McGill. So I don't know if you can wait. I mean, he averaged 4.4 innings per start in May. He hasn't completed 6 innings since April 27th, and that's the only time he's done it. So that's a legitimate issue for Tyler McGill. Now, he might get like 17 strikeouts next week in 10 innings. He's that kind of pitcher. So I think I lean no for both McGill and Canning, certainly in a roto league. That man, at the Dodgers, you could live with it if it was at the Dodgers versus Colorado. I know the Rockies are a great matchup. 66% of the starts against the Rockies this season have been quality starts. Starting pitchers have a 2.95 ERA against them. Oof. They have a 27.4% strikeout rate against the Rockies. Like they basically turn every starting pitcher they face into Zach Wheeler, and they play half their games at Coors Field. That is wild.
Jeez.
Not this year. Zach Wheeler's getting a little more strikeouts, but usually he's right around that mark. And so like I think McGill and Canning are both decent starts, but certainly Canning I would try to avoid just because if he gets bumped back one day, then it's just versus the Dodgers, and that's really tough. McGill, I'm okay with in a roto league.
I think I'm out on both of them. But I don't know. Maybe scared money don't make money. So
look, I get it. And maybe last I checked, the Rockies were still like 17th in runs scored at home. That's not a bad matchup, but it's not as good as it is on the road, certainly.
What do you think about Clayton Kershaw home against the Mets and at the Cardinals?
I think Clayton Kershaw is probably one of the most over-rostered players in fantasy right now. I don't really see much there.
All right, 2-star pitchers to add and stream. I should mention, and I should have up top, that all this work was done by Scott White, and he sent it to us before he went on his little vacation here. So shout out to Scott for hooking us up and sending these recommendations our way. But the 2-star pitchers that Scott likes, he has Lance McCullers at the Pirates and at the Guardians. Shane Smith home against the Tigers and Royals. Luis Severino home against the Twins and Orioles. Max Meyer home against the Rockies and at Tampa Bay. It's a tough one. Tomoyuki Sagano at the Mariners, at the Athletics. Landon Root home against the Padres and home against the Braves. 2 names I wanted to ask you about here, Chris. What do you think about Lance McCullers' 12 strikeout performance? Would you also recommend adding and streaming him? And Max Meyer, man, would you actually do it?
So I think coming off the 12 strikeout game, and I think he had 8 in the previous start. It was only like 4 innings, but given that and 2 decent matchups at least, and 1 very good against Pittsburgh, I'm fine with McCullers as a streamer. It could go very wrong very quickly. I don't think that he's a very good pitcher right now. Maybe another couple of starts will convince me, but my operating assumption has been we're not going to get anything from him. The last 2 starts are the first time I've had to reconsider that. So I think he's an okay streamer here. It's really annoying that Max Meyer and Sandy Alcantara both get the Rockies at home this week, because if you wanted to drop Sandy, you probably just should. I'm not going to like stand on that one. I think it's a fine stash, but it's just a stash at this point. So if you need someone to put in your lineup, dropping Sandy makes sense. I'm probably starting Max Meyer here. But I don't know. His slider, we talked about it, I think, on Wednesday's show or Tuesday's show. His slider has gone from looking like one of the best pitches in baseball in April to being an absolute disaster in May. And I think he should probably just switch to being a sinker slider guy rather than a 4-seamer slider guy and see if he can make that work. His changeup has looked okay, but look, there's no world in which Max Meyer is going to be a must-start pitcher if he doesn't have a great slider. I'm not sure he's worth rostering if he has if he just has an okay slider, he's probably not worth rostering. That pitch needs to be great for him, and it's not right now. I'm inclined to start him. I think I'd start him ahead of Lance McCullers right now, but I wish I was more confident.
1-star streamers for next week. We have Ryan Weathers at the Rays, Hayden Birdsong home against the Braves, Michael Wacha at the White Sox, and Jeffrey Springs home against the Twins. On the hitter side of things, the best matchups for next week, the Tigers, Mets, who have those games in Coors Field, Twins, Mariners, and Phillies. The worst hitter matchups, Pirates, Blue Jays, Guardians, Giants, and Diamondbacks. Sleeper hitters for week 11, we have Jonathan Aranda, just 1 lefty on the schedule, and he's been heating up lately. Miguel Vargas having a huge May, and he's got 7 games. Rhys Hoskins, he's hit well all season, and he's got 3 in Great American Ballpark. Jake Berger, Michael Busch, Colt Keith, he has 7 games. All are right-handed pitchers and 4 against White Sox pitching. So I do like that one as well. Connor Norby, Brett Beatty, who has 7 games next week, including 3 in Coors Field. Javier Baez, who has 7 games with 4 against the White Sox. And then Jesus Sanchez, who has 6 games 3 against Rockies pitching. Chris, any names here that stand out that you'd like to touch on before we wrap up?
No, the one thing I would note is Connor Norby did get hit on the head by a pitch the other day. It was a breaking ball, but it was like 85 miles an hour. I don't think he left the game, but that would just be something to watch if there are any lingering symptoms from that crop up. So that'd be one thing to watch this weekend before you lock your lineups next week.
All right, that was the weekly preview brought to you by Travis Matthew. Apparel designed for confidence and comfort no matter where the day takes you. We're big fans of Travis Matthew here. Again, this shirt, I love it. It's comfy. Got the Yankees. Got these all different kinds of Yankees logos on here. Wearing my Travis Matthew hat. Chris, I see you rocking the quarter zip, the fleece with the Phillies logo.
It's nice. The weather has been cooperating enough that I can still wear my hood, my sweaters. I haven't quite had to switch to the t-shirts entirely yet, but I actually do have the Travis Matthew like sleeveless or collarless polo as well, which I really like. So yeah, we're rocking it.
Love it. Yes. So again, pointed out multiple times here that they have an MLB collection on their website. And obviously people listening to this podcast, you'll be very interested in what they have to offer. So make sure to head on over to travismatthew.com. Big thanks to Travis Matthew for making clothes for any occasion that are not only comfy, but stylish as well. Let's wrap up here, Chris, with some of their leftovers from Thursday's action. And it was a big day for Austin Riley, who went 4 for 8 with his 9th home run, his first homer since May 4th. And as a result, he's been a little underwhelming so far this season. Still a fine season. Kyle Schwarber homered in game 1 of that doubleheader. That was his 19th of the season. Ozzy Albies slowly coming around last 13 games, 346 with 1 home run, tons of line drives. And Jose Altuve is picking up the power last 7 games, 464 with 5 home runs. Anything stand out here?
Yeah, I think Riley's fine. I know he's been disappointing and obviously last season was disappointing as well. So there might be some concern about that, but we talked all offseason about how last season was mostly just a slow start and he looked like himself for the final 3 months before his injury. His underlying stats look great still. I'm very confident. I haven't moved Austin Riley down in the rankings at all. Albies and Altuve are 2 who have in the last couple of weeks. So, of course, they're starting to turn it around. And look, I'd be happy to get normal Ozzy Albies and Jose Altuve production the rest of the way. And if it took me moving them like 30, 40 spots down in the overall rankings, but still in the exact same spot they were at second base, because second base is pretty bad on the high end, I'd be fine with that. I'll take that sacrifice.
On the pitching side of things, Chris Sale was awesome at the Phillies, 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts there. Jose Barrios needed a bounce back start here. Although, I thought he was pitching so poorly. He had like quality starts in 4 of his last 5 entering this one, but it just felt like he's been so bad. Had 6 shutout innings here with 9 strikeouts against the Athletics. And it turns out Zach Wheeler is human after all. Rough outing against the Braves, 5 1/3 innings, 6 runs allowed, 6 strikeouts here. Look, he's allowed to have a bad one every now and then. He also had 7 quality starts in a row before this start. So anything, Chris, on Zach Wheeler, Jose Barrios, or Chris Sale?
Yeah, I mean, it is, you point out Jose Barrios had, 5 of 6 quality starts. He had a 4.20 ERA in the month of May. So it was like just barely quality starts. I think Nick Pollock at Pitcher List calls them VPQS, very poor quality start. And that's kind of Jose Barrios' sweet spot. Like, I don't know. He's been doing this for 10 years and he's kind of been the exact same pitcher the entire time. Like, his approach has not changed. His pitch mix is the same. And it's just doesn't work that day, doesn't work that month, doesn't work that season. He usually ends up with an ERA in the 360 range, but there's a reason he is ranked below other guys we expect to have a 360 ERA, because the process is frustrating. And it's sort of an empty 360 to 380 ERA, if that makes sense. Like, very Not great strikeout numbers, usually mediocre whip. So I don't.
Much better in a points league.
Yeah, he's fine. I don't have much to say about any of these guys. Chris Sale has been about as awesome for the past 6 starts as he was mediocre the first 6, and I expect him to be very, very good moving forward.
All right, call to the bullpen. Just 2 updates here for the Phillies in game 1 of their doubleheader. Jordan Romano barely held on for the save. He got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. He gave up a hit and 3 walks, but picked up his 8th save. And then for the Nationals in that late game, I see that Kyle Finnegan did pitch in this one. It was with a very big lead. It was 9-2 in the 10th inning. Nationals had like a crazy 7-run inning in the top of that inning. But Kyle Finnegan, nice to see him back. He was dealing with the shoulder thing. Velocity looked fine. Yeah, he gave up a hit and a walk, but seems like hopefully everything's all right there with Kyle Finnegan. To stream or not to stream on Friday, we have Zebby Matthews at the Mariners. Kyle Harrison is at the Marlins. Luis Ortiz home against the Angels. Jose Soriano at the Guardians. Jeffrey Springs at the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think those are all interesting, or at least fine. If I thought Zebby Matthews had a chance to get 6 innings, I would be very excited about him, but it's an iffy matchup because it's in Seattle. He might only go 4 1/3 innings if he basically has to pitch perfectly to get through 6 right now. So I'm a little worried about that, but he would probably be my top choice. I don't have a ton of faith in Kyle Harrison, but his fastball velocity's up. That pitch has looked good. And it's Miami, so I think that one's okay. And Ortiz and Soriano are both fine on both sides of that one.
On Saturday, we have Edward Cabrera home against the Giants. Zach Littell is at the Astros. Slade Ciccone home against the Angels. Dean Kramer, I don't think is very good, but he faces the White Sox.
He's been good lately.
Hoagland at the Blue Jays, but he's slowed down.
I think it's Ciccone, and then
I think I actually would use Kramer.
I think Kramer. He's been good lately. He's rattled off a couple of quality starts lately, so sure, given the matchup.
And then on Sunday, we have Charlie Morton gets the White Sox. I mean, how far are you willing to play that game? Adrian Hauser is at the Orioles. Eric Fetty at the Rangers. We know their lineup has been pretty bad, but Corey Seager is back. JP Sears at the Blue Jays. He got bombed last time out. Nick Martinez at the Cubs. Chris Paddock at the Mariners. Not a great day.
Paddock at the Disco. Is that a team name that anyone's done?
I think we have gotten that one before, but it's an oldie but goodie.
I don't really like any of these. The best pitchers here have the worst matchups, and the best matchups are with the worst pitchers. Charlie Morton has been pitching better since he got moved back to the rotation, and then he had a quality start in his return to the rotation. I don't trust it, but if you're really going to force me to say one, I'll go Charlie Morton versus the White Sox.
I don't think Eric Fetty is very good, and look, there's blow-up potential there, but if you need a start at the Rangers, their lineup has been scuffling. I can see that one working out as well. All right, we're going to wrap there. For Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again next week. Bye-bye.